And welcome back to the Y.E.S Fitness Longevity Podcast. This is going to be a long one today. Welcome back to Y.E.S Longevity Podcast, where we give you insight on how to get fit, feel younger, and live better. So just a couple of housekeeping things. First, we will be closed on Labor Day. Monday, Labor Day, we're closed. So please do not show up. Enjoy your holiday weekend. But we are open Saturday for our normally scheduled sessions. And the second item is that get your last few workouts in if you're planning on completing the run from Burlington to Boston, where we're going to burn 12,000 calories in the past 2 months. Trying to stay consistent throughout the summer with our exercise program. We've got, I think, 9 or 10 people that have done a great job, and I think are going to be able to make it. So congratulations to them, and I will announce those people next week. So those are the only two housekeeping things we have today. So today, what I'm going to talk about is something called mTOR, mTOR, which stands for mammalian target of rapamycin. Okay, it's a long word. What does that all mean? And I'm going to talk about how mTOR, autophagy, and relate to longevity and what you can do about it in your lifestyle. So I'm going to make it really, really simple, okay, because there's a lot of complexities to it. And basically what mTOR is, it's certain pathways, biochemical pathways, and they mainly are the master controllers of protein synthesis. Okay, that's what it is. And when mTOR is high, it promotes growth in the body, and it could stimulate the growth of cancer cells and tumors and things like that. So we don't want mTOR to be high, obviously. But it's also, when mTOR is low, is what we're looking for, it stimulates autophagy. Autophagy is, it's a recycling of damaged proteins or old proteins that are not needed anymore. So kind of recycles them into new amino acids that builds new tissue. It's like anti-aging, actually. It's the body's way of cleaning up damaged cells in order to generate new ones and healthier ones. So we want to have that. We want to have autophagy. And it's kind of the body's way of implementing the survival of the fittest mode. Basically, the stronger cells end up consuming the weaker cells. So our goal is always to try to keep mTOR low. And we want to try to promote autophagy. So I'm going to talk about four foods that can help boost autophagy. But let's talk a little bit more about what autophagy is. So there's kind of 3 kinds of autophagy. The most common way to trigger or to stimulate is called, the most common way to kind of trigger or to stimulate it is something that's called AMP protein kinase. And AMP protein kinase is an enzyme that takes part in the balancing of the energy in the body. It generally, or is generated whenever we have to create energy from our own body, from our own storage. So let me just give you an example. Anytime we're running out of carbohydrate stores and your body has to actually use its own storages of energy, like sources of fat or its own glycogen, it activates AMP. So when AMP is activated, basically this AMP is only activated when the body has to generate its own energy. It's also activated when we exercise or when we're fasting. or when we are in a caloric deficit. So all these different things obviously make really good sense from a longevity perspective. So when you're fasting, you have a high degree of MPK that's getting activated because you're not eating. And when you're working out, of course, you're tapping into it. So that is also a way to activate AMPK. So these things are all good for health, and they're generally good for longevity. So while autophagy is very complex, we're going to take a look at different ways to do it. But this is only going to be scratching of the surface of autophagy. So there's so much to it. I'm going to try to keep it simple, much more than I know or can understand about it. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to go through 4 foods that you can implement in your diet in different mechanisms. Maybe implement if you're fasting or not fasting. They're going to help stimulate autophagy through different mechanisms. So let's go ahead and start with number 1. It's going to be green tea. And the main active ingredient is going to be EGCC. Hopefully I can pronounce this correctly. EGCC stands for epigallocatechin galate. Well, I'm going to try that once. And this is very, very powerful when it comes to autophagy. There's a study that actually published in a journal of PLOS1, okay? And it found that green tea actually stimulates autophagy. Specifically, in hepatic cells. And so give me 1 second here. For some reason, I just got a little message that we're fuzzy. What? I don't know how I can fix that on the camera. We just seem fuzzy today. I wonder why. And that's okay. We can take an interruption, but I don't know how to make us not fuzzy. What can I possibly do about that? So I'm just going to keep moving on, even though my camera's fuzzy today. Although my picture's not fuzzy on my screen. I look normal.
Yeah. I don't know.
I don't know. I apologize if I look fuzzy out there today. I don't know what I can do about it. But on my screen, I look okay. So maybe Michelle needs to clean her screen. I don't know. So let's get back to where we're at here. There's a study that's actually published in a journal of PLOS1, okay, and it's found that green tea actually stimulated autophagy, specifically in hepatic cells. So meaning that in the liver. Now, this is very important. We want the liver to go through this process of autophagy because liver cells are under a lot of stress all the time. So if we can stimulate good autophagy, the survival of the fittest, there can be have good cells in the liver. So what they found was it stimulated what's called the autophagic flux. This was basically, just sounds like it is. It's a flux of autophagones that go into the area when this compound is ingested. Kind of complicated, trying to make it simple to understand. But so basically, EGCC literally causes basically a flux of autophagy to occur. Now, what's interesting thing is that it encourages lipid breakdown. So it encourages fat cells to actually go through the autophagy process. Therefore, it even helps lipolysis a little bit more, so burning more fat occurring than just the autophagy. We also have fat cells that are going through the process of autophagy, becoming even more efficient, allowing bodies to either store them or use them easier, what is ever applicable at that time. So the way EGCC or green tea actually helps with autophagy is by increasing, not activating, but increasing the production of AMPT. So the operative word here is that it increases and encourages the production of that. So to help somebody produce more AMPK. So if the cycle is already going on because you're fasting, if you're working out with green tea beforehand, it's going to help boost autophagy and achieve all the right things. So think about green tea in your diet. You want to get some green tea into your diet if you don't already, to help increase AMPK and the process of autophagy. So let's move on into the next one. Let's see, we're going to talk about ginger. Ginger is very good for fasting because it's good on your stomach. But from the side of autophagy, you see that it's a component of ginger known as G-shogol. It's a weird word basically, but it's one of the more inactive ingredients in ginger. So something that people don't focus on that much, but in one study, it was very particularly looked at. There's a big focus on 6-shogol, and the study was published in a Journal of Agriculture and Food Chemistry, and it took a look at the effects of the components of ginger, and the 6-G-gol, the 6-shogol, pardon me. A lot of words in here that are hard to pronounce today. But the 6-shogol is a non-small cell lung cancer. So what they did was they took a look at the effects of the 6-shogol on a non-small cell lung cancer. Okay, so it's pretty interesting. So what they found is that it induced autophagic cell death, but not premature apoptosis. What it means by apoptosis is a premature cell death. You see, like autophagy, it's like a natural process that should occur. Apoptosis is a premature cell death, where the cell just kind of dies, okay? So basically they found that encourages a natural process of autophagy, but didn't encourage a cell to die prematurely in this particular case. Of course, cancer, basically, we're allowing the cells, so premature case of cancer. Basically, we're allowing the cancer cells to get a little bit more finely tuned. So they're rather than being erratic growing, they're growing up a little bit more under control. And with chemotherapy and other treatments could be very powerful. So this is kind of blocking what's known as AKT. And by ending up blocking the downstream, it targets AKT, okay? So it's kind of complex, but basically what this means is, all that mumbo jumbo, basically what this means is that ginger has the ability to turn off a specific process that would normally trigger all kinds of anabolic responses with a cancer cell. We don't want the growth of cancer cells. So if we can turn off the downstream targets and turn off the phosphorylation of mTOR, it also turn off the phosphorylation of PK70S6K. Basically, we're allowing the lung cell or that cell not to grow anymore. and actually has some really strong potential in ginger. This applies in terms of fasting. So we're not saying that we can stop cancer, but ginger may actually slow the growth of cells. So we're already acting on different pathways of fasting. We're already boosting autophagy. So we got ginger, and we've got my brain is really shot today, isn't it? So let's move on to the third one. I don't think I'm back from vacation yet, is what the problem is. I think my mind is still on vacation. So let's continue to talk about ginger on this. So this fasting is already boosting your autophagy. So why not go ahead and add something else that actually can stop the downstream signaling of AKT and slow down mTOR. We already talked about mTOR. We want to slow down mTOR. And we want to slow down the overall P67SK6. And all this would normally slow the growth by multiplying. So in other words, we're stopping the process and making autophagy better. So the next thing we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about research involving turmeric and curcumin. So in the Journal of Pharmacological Science, took a look at curcumin's effect on specific A549, small cell lung carcinoma, okay? What they wanted to find, again, was the overall effect of when it came down to autophagy and when it came down to cancer cells in general. So they found that the turmeric, curcumin, actually increased the activation of AMP protein kinase. So basically, that AMPK, so we have had a pretty big increase in the phosphorylation. In other words, the kind of activation AMPK. Now you remember from before that AMPK is very, very important in autophagy. Remember that green tea increases AMPK, while turmeric curcumin actually activates phosphorylation of AMPK. So whereas green tea actually increases it, the turmeric actually activates it. So when the combination of turmeric and green tea, when you're fasting, could actually potentially stimulate to just boost your autophagy. Now, in no way, shape, or form are we saying that fasting and these treatments and these foods can actually cure cancer. And the studies are just done on cancer because of a perfect example where the autophagosome actually have a place, which leads me to the next one, which is the reishi mushroom. So, reishi mushrooms, when consumed during fasting, can really, really powerful way to increase that autophagic effects. So, we've got a study in the Journal of Nutrition and Cancer. Again, they do it on cancer because cancer cells like to grow, and we can show these effects of autophagy on cancer cells really well. So the study specifically took a look at colon cancer cells, and they actually found by adding some reishi mushrooms into a mix, they could actually suppress the proliferation of these colon cancer cells. And they did this by suppressing the phosphorylation of what is called mTOR. 3,8 nitrogen activated kinase. Another big long science word. And all this fancy way of saying, another way of autophagy was activated. There are multiple ways to go through autophagy. Okay, so we can go the MKA route. You can go through the nitrogen pathway routes. We can take a look at reishi mushrooms. Are pretty darn intriguing to see what they actually stimulate autophagy by suppressing the phosphorylation of the MP38 nitrogen activation kinase pathway. So this means that we're suppressing the potential growth of cancer cells and encouraging autophagy via another pathway. So just one simple way, these foods that we mentioned today, the reishi mushrooms, the ginger, the I am really not brain active today. Maybe I need to take a rest, take a little bit of nap. The green tea. How could I forget green tea? All these foods, these 4 foods, they're going to activate autophagy, or at least act upon certain completely separate ways. So you have 4 different ways to simulate this and boost, whether it's boost your fast or even if you're not fasting. So you want green tea, ginger, the turmeric, curcumin, and some reishi mushrooms. Those 4 foods you want to try to include in your diet because we want the body to be able to eliminate or get rid of the cells that are no good anymore and regenerate the cells better than before. And that's what we're looking for. So I know there's a lot of science in here. I may not pronounce all those words correctly. I'm a little dry for some reason and my brain's not turned on. I kind of put this together sort of quick today because my guest was not able to make it. So if you have any questions about this, just think about including those 4 foods, the green tea, the ginger, the turmeric, and the reishi mushrooms into your diet. It's going to help you be healthier. It's going to help your cells eliminate the cells that are dying faster. It's going to help you regenerate better cells, newer, faster cells, and help you live longer, help you live better. So you can look for more information on how to get fit, feel younger, and live better next Tuesday at 3:30 right here on the Y.E.S Longevity Podcast. Thanks for watching.